everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Omnichannel Marketer. This is your host, Kate Stevens, and I'm here today with Dale Mason, International Sales Manager at Tooletries. Dale, it's so great to have you here today.
It's good to be with you, and I actually wanted to say thank you for saying the name of the company right. It is a bit of a tongue twister for a lot of people, and they do get confused, and it is one bugbear for the owners and the whole Tooletries team is when people sort of don't say it right. So thank you for doing that.
Phew, I'm so glad. So Dale, why don't you just, start us off with a little bit more about Tooletries, the brand, and then just for everyone's benefit that is listening, Dale is, joining us from the U.S. all the way from Australia. So, maybe that could be a little bit more about what is the brand, what's the product, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so first things first, to your listeners, I will apologise, and I've already tried to remind myself several times to take it a bit slower because I do speak a little bit fast, and with the change of the native tongue, it can come across a bit confusing sometimes. So just for those people out there, I will try and slow it down. Tooletries. We're a men's grooming brand, as you said, so from Brisbane, Australia. So I'm currently in the US for extending our business in the wholesale channel. We've originated in 2016, founded by brothers Saul and Josh Coburn, and we specialise in silicone grooming tools for men, which are stylish, clever and bespoke. We like to think, and what we're working towards, is we're helping men look good and feel good every day.
Okay. And then, tell me a little bit more about, where the state of the business is, some of the channels that you sell through and, what that, progression looked like since you launched in 2016.
Yeah, so the brand started out as an entrepreneurial e-commerce brand, as a lot of brands are starting these days. So 2016, Josh and Saul, very small. It was just Josh and Saul out of an incubator hub with other like-minded entrepreneurs. We don't have all the time today to go through it, but there are some funny stories where they were initially packing orders out of their mother's house. She was kind enough to give them space. They were utilising a room. They were packing orders out of there. It then quickly, to go through that, it then transformed into a storage shed, and they were using a trolley that they may have acquired from a shopping retailer to push orders they'd packed and fulfilled to the local post office. And from there, over the years, they've then just gradually climbed. They were successful within a few years in starting to acquire some domestic Australian independent retailers, and that gave them the vision that the brand could grow from being an e-commerce digital brand to a bricks and mortar brand. So they started to scale there, and I have to give props to Josh, the younger of the two brothers. He took it upon himself in 2019 to pack up and to move to the United States. He lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he spent 2.5 years here before the full effects of COVID hit, really trying to do the groundwork for the brand with not only the .com side of things and the shipping, logistics side of things, but with retailers and getting us in the door with some bricks and mortar retailers. Those relationships ended up being Myer, Publix, Container Store, retailers that we're really proud that we've been able to navigate through COVID and we're still with today.
So, your role, tell our listeners a little bit more about your role, and then what you're focused on right now in international sales. How are you thinking about expanding the footprint of Tooletries going forward?
Yeah, going back to that origin story, Saul and Josh could see the brand growing, so they've naturally put pieces of the puzzle around them. Being two entrepreneurs, and Kate, you've probably seen it firsthand dealing with entrepreneurs. They often wear many hats, but sometimes they're not wearing the right hats. And Saul and Josh, to give them credit, they are very intelligent men. Saul has a criminal law background, so very intelligent with the back end and litigious with all the detail. Josh has a marketing background, spent time with Saatchi and Saatchi, but there are elements of the business that they didn't know. So Jonathan Pagano was a great hire, just to go back on that, as a creative director. He came in about 2 years before I did, and then I've been with Josh and Saul and the Tooletries team for just over 2 years now as international sales manager. So where I'm coming to is put the pieces of the puzzle in the right spot, and we probably don't have all the pieces yet, but it's allowing us to expand into these international markets. For example, if you're looking at 100% of the Tooletries pie, 50% of our business is in Australia at the moment, but 46% of the business is in America, 6% in the UK, 1% in Canada. We really need to, if we're going to continue on our growth trajectory, is to really grow the US market. So really go, whilst we want to keep that healthy balance in Australia, the opportunities from a market, and if I just throw some figures at you, currently it's $9.5 billion. I know I speak fast, so for the listeners, it's $9.5 billion is the total addressable market for men's grooming. The statistics have that, whether you go by Nielsen's or IRA or the likes, the statistics are around the similar. It's going to be by 2030, 21 billion. Again, that's 21 billion. So there's about an 8% growth. So I know you had people like recently on, like Matt from Huron. So there's people that are getting in at the right time, getting them ready for this growth trajectory. What Tooletries is doing that I believe not a lot of brands are, there are some, and we probably will mention those, is that we're an omni-channel retailer. We're not focusing on just D2C. We're not just focusing on trying to get bricks and mortar retailers. We're focusing on the whole pie, and that's where I see largely us being successful, and that's why I'm undertaking the more sporadical trips that I'm doing at the moment over here because of the large degree of opportunities. Just in the last 24 hours, speaking with a specialty or dealing with a specialty retailer around a proposal, contract, however you want to term it, for 20 doors. But the scalability is to get to 50 doors, and that exposure across the great nation of the United States would be wonderful for us.
And Dale, is your specific experience in the sales side as well?
Yeah, so I come from both retail. So started as a young man in my younger days in retail, and then navigated and got my first opportunity in Australia, what you would call it's sports licensing. So over here you have NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA. We have our national sporting codes in Australia, and I cut my teeth in that, so into the wholesale. So it's been coming close to 15 years, probably nearly closer to 20 years of time in retail. So as I go back to before, Josh and Saul was intelligent enough to see that they could put people in the places like myself that had the speciality to then grow the channels that they needed to grow.
So let's dig into this sales side and what that means, expanding on the retail side. And, love the idea of you really thinking about the Tooletries brand as omni-channel. Obviously, the, podcast name is Omnichannel Marketer. That's really, what we believe is the future of successful brands. But, I think you more than others have a very specific focus on sales. And I would love for you to kind of, take us through what that means. Like, how are you spending your time? How do you think about positioning the Tooletries brand to different types of retailers, and what does that serve? Like, how do those different retailers serve differently than others? And then, would love to also go into, how do you set yourself up for success as a brand selling in retail, driving that retail velocity? Because a lot of the guests who have come on this podcast and our listeners are, these digitally native brands who are new to retail, and they're about to, launch 1,600 doors in Target, et cetera, thinking through and learning, okay, how we got this retail deal. Now, how are we successful? So I'd love for you to, share everything that you can around both acquiring and then being successful at retail.
Yeah, it's interesting. As I said to you, I've spent time on both sides of the fence, retail and then the wholesaler. So I naturally then get to see it from both sides. So that's where my competitive advantage comes into it, by seeing what the retailer wants to see. And that comes down to largely planogramming space. So a lot of people just want to sell their whole kit. So you've got, let's just arbitrary numbers, you've got 10 products. Naturally, everyone wants, if we're talking about Target, they want the Target to take all of our 10 products. But let's be honest, Kate, that's not realistic, and it's not beneficial in the long run for you, the vendor or the brand. So where I come into it is, and we have a very large national retail partner in Australia, and we're very lucky to have that. And I'm very proud that, the Tooletries had that when I came on board, but I'm very proud of what I've been able to achieve with that for Tooletries in terms of stripping it back, getting in, stripping it back, speaking with the retail partner about, okay, well, what do you see that's working at the moment? What's not working for you? What are your stores saying? If we're talking about a bricks and mortar, what are the stores saying? And what are you hearing from consumers? But ultimately, as I'm the face of the brand now for Saul and Josh, is that I need to drive the conversation about, okay, well, what's going to work best for both parties? And being mature enough to go, no, you're not carrying 10 of our products, you're going to carry 6, because those 6 items are our top-selling items. We've got data, and all the people that you speak to will have this data, so it's there. You just got to dive into it. And now, as founders, I've got to say, with Josh and Saul completely saw what I was undertaking there. Josh, not so much. So when he sees this, he can give me a little bit of a nudge, but he's definitely on board now. It's very hard, and I say this to those entrepreneurial business owners that you deal with, Kate, and that listen to this, is it's a mindset shift for you that you need to go, okay, I need to strip this back and work on what's going to sell through, because think about your retail partner, your buyer, the company you're working with. They have benchmarks, they have KPIs. Have a think about that. Don't just think about your bank balance, and think about strategically what's going to work, put you above, because it's a numbers game, Kate. If it's one brand in, sometimes one brand out, or there's review season and we're looking at, okay, who's performing here? And sometimes buyers, companies only get to look at things from a top line. If you have 10 products in a retailer and let's say 6 of them are doing outstandingly, they've got 100 SKUs in their department and 6 of your products are in the top 20, but 4 are in the bottom 20, and those 4 are devaluing the other 6, your brand potentially could get cut from that range review if you don't get to fight for every inch. And I'm sorry to say that these days, with time constraints and when decisions get made, a lot of brands just don't get that consultative time to be able to go, oh, hang on, these 6 items are really working for you. It's like, oh, sorry, it just hasn't worked. So for me, strip it back, get the products in that are going to sell, and then work your way on, okay, we've proved concept, we're hitting your benchmarks, you need 80% sell-through, we're at 85% and above. Oh, yes, you are. We'd love to have a chat to you about ranging, let's just go with X and Y, and not then going, okay, pushing it even further, but looking at, okay, strategically what your current assortment is and then what next makes sense. And I hope the listeners understand that. It's just about, it's like Lego. It's just putting the pieces, the bricks together.
So just, play through this conversation with your retail partner. You ask them, what are your KPIs for this product? And they tell you, we're looking for 80% sell through. And then tell me what 80% sell through means. Yeah,
so that's basically a benchmark. So they're going to draw that over, whether it be a buying season, a yearly, whether it be yearly, it could be like a Q4 holiday program. We've been involved in all of those. And I'm proud to say we're again, under the way we're moving forward, we're hitting these benchmarks. So I won't name the retailer, but we were part of a Q4 holiday program. 2 products were chosen, and 86% sell-through was the marker for you to then be accepted in the next holiday program, but also to then quantify if those products were successful to then go towards ranging. We had a product hit 93%, and the second product hit 87%. So we've well exceeded on the first product and exceeded. I mean, that's a tight sell-through. But that sell-through marker then for the season is, okay, they're buying, let's just go for arbitrary so that the listeners at home can break it down. There's 100 products that you've sold and it's more than that generally, but 100 products, 86%, they can do the maths. They want 86 units gone to go, yep, tick, it's worked. So it's about, again, when you get that and you get those KPIs, thinking smartly about, okay, what am I going to put forward? So you've got to put forward your proven winners. It's no going, oh, well, let's give them this product. Because if you know internally it's not going to sell, you're going to be that story, here today, gone tomorrow. As it turns out, both of our products with that retailer are now on board nationally in the US.
Amazing. Okay, yeah. So focus on your best products that you know will drive that sell-through, and then look to kind of expand into, with other products at that retailer. What are some of the other components that you think through as it relates to driving sell-through, standing out on the shelf? What kind of makes Tooletries successful in retail?
Yeah, I want to go back to then when I said about the pieces of the puzzle earlier. So speaking about Jonathan Pagano, so the creative director. So ultimately creative, packaging. So if everyone know who Tooletries is listening today isn't aware of Tooletries, I'll quickly go away, Google Tooletries, Tooletries, and you'll see it's very bold and creative packaging, yellow and black. So we won't go into the roots of how the packaging came about and the branding came about, but that's your first opportunity to stand out, and we definitely do. If you've seen us Kate, you've seen us in a trade showroom, people that come to meet us, or you've seen us in a retailer, we definitely pop off shelf, and we're very proud about that. The next component to that, outside of the Jonathan Pagano pixie dust and his creative flair, is your merchandising. So I come back to, okay, you've stripped it back with your bricks and mortar retail. So we can all have, and a lot of the people that you've probably had on your pod and people that you will have, engaging websites. You can jazz those up and you can get the web developer in and you can do this and exciting videos. But it's the visual merchandising. If you want to win in bricks and mortar, the visual merchandising, and that's where we're trying to really take effect and really have those conversations. Some stronger than others, because I say that because some are easier. Because you talk to some retailers and they're like, "Oh, you'd like to do merchandise," and they're like, "Absolutely." And others, it's like, "Oh, it's a little bit harder." And that's probably where we may get to today, or maybe if we get another chance to catch up again, is there needs to be a merchandising revolution. That's something that I'm very passionate about, is the way brands presented in store. It's not 1985 anymore and the product comes in through the retailer's warehouse and it goes out on the floor. We need to offer the consumers more. We need to know that they're engaging through their phones, they're swiping up, they're swiping left, they're swiping right. We need to give them, so we know in that regard something that's very catchy and creative is capturing them on their devices. We need to then translate that, and there'll be someone smarter than me. I'm just trying to move with retail, but is we need to try and capture people when their feet are in store and get them to stop. That's ultimately the brands that are going to win, and the brands that'll be there for the future, not the here, now, gone, tomorrow. The brands that will be there for the future are going to be the ones that engage with the consumer the most.
So, totally was thinking about when we met at the trade show, your packaging for Tooletries is definitely eye-catching. Looks like a construction site. That was the way I thought of it, which to me makes a lot of sense with the Tooletries name. Play on the word tools for everyone, not picking that one up. Specifically merchandising, talk to me about what that means. Is it shelf talkers? What is that different or the same as packaging?
Yeah, it's all of that, Kate. It's creative side stacks, it's end caps, built in. I'll put myself on the line. I really think the future in retail and for smart retailers, and there's a lot here in the US and Australia, is the ones that are going to be able to, how I term it, plug brands in and create an immersive experience. There are some that are sort of doing it at the moment, but I believe in as close to 5 years' time, gone will be just the ways of having the standardised shelves of a retailer. It will be, okay, Tooletries, it'll be how we immerse ourselves into the shelves themselves. So at the moment we're using PDQ, so corrugated cut, and when I say that, I probably should. The industry is using corrugated cardboard fixturing. There are the likes of us, we're utilising independently made structures. But I believe the opportunity will come where we can plug into the shelving system. So you'll be given your space, and they'll have 4 brands across a 16 square size, and you'll just plug in, and it'll be immersive, and then you'll know your destination. It won't just be a series of products on shelves, and it'll be almost, if I can term it, made to fit.
Yeah, I can completely understand why that would be the future. And, we look across other retail, I think experiential is working, and it is this opportunity to draw a customer into the store to look and feel and experience a product, which again becomes a differentiation from the way that you can experience products digitally. So, which, kind of transitions me to how do you think about, from the perspective of Tooletries, bridging the gap between your retail customers, your, digital customers, your, how do you think about that end-to-end customer experience?
Yeah, that comes together with, I guess, the consistent messaging and branding. So that's one main. And then integrating our systems. We're spending a lot of time on our back-end systems at the moment, and I don't think any one brand gets that right. I think we're obviously always evolving. We're with Shopify. We're partnered with Shopify and have been on the e-com, D2C side, but now we're starting to explore the ways that we can utilise that as a wholesale business. Whilst I'm no expert on it at the moment, I put my hand up if anyone from Shopify is listening. They can reach out to me. I'd love to dive into it more. But there's wonderful opportunities through the building through with apps that have the opportunity then to, you can use for forecasting, reporting, tracking information. That's going to be a key area for a lot of brands. And then your multiple touch points, so socials, email, SMS, gathering feedback, Kate, like really utilising some of that. So I'll give you a great example. Our back scrubber, which launched in November 2021, came about because we were absolutely inundated through socials, and the main platform for that one was Facebook at the time. So we're probably going back because I know we're in a TikTok revolution, and but we were gathering this momentum about, you should do this product, it would be great. We love your body scrubber. So the body scrubber, if I just go into that a little bit deeper, was the original grooming tool. Silicone, bristles, antibacterial, hygienic. Saul and Josh, I say this because I don't want founders and entrepreneurs to go out there and scroll through and see, what are people telling us to do at the moment? Because you've got to be careful, because for every 100 people that say you should do this, we'd love it, when you come out with that product, you're not necessarily guaranteed to get those 100 people coming to buy it. But there was enough of a groundswell around the socials that told us that this product could be something, and now it's our number one seller. It's absolutely, like, we still sit back now, what is it, we're coming up to a year and a half, and we're sitting back going, it's a back scrubber. It's great. I mean, it's a Tooletries back scrubber, so it's done uniquely, and as I said, stylish, clever, and it's bespoke. It's innovative. So again, if you've got the means to tick a few of those boxes that I just said, have a think about the ideas that are in your head, implement them. But that's a perfect example where if you've got multiple touch points, you can find some real nuggets of gold. A product now that's become a number one seller for us globally.
It makes a ton of sense. Listening to the customer and then, bringing that into your product development pipeline. So we touched on this briefly, but could you share something that you're bold or passionate about?
It's 100% hands down. It's the merchandising and visual merchandising. It's the way you can get your product to appeal to the consumer. I don't need a retailer to come along with a gigantic PO, and I know there's people listening, everyone's got a different form of a gigantic PO, but you just don't need that spend when the product's not going to be portrayed properly. You need it to be, merchandised properly. So, for me, the visual merchandise standards, the look, because so the consumer feels engaged with the brand. So that's a big one for me moving forward as the international sales manager for Tooletries and filtering down into my team, whether that be with, container store or whether that be with a small independent here in, Minneapolis, Minnesota, is just about making sure we're presenting the brand right. And hence why we had a big, if we go back to where you and I met in January in the trade shows, we had a big emphasis on our stands and our displays, how appealing those. You went, again, touch back what you said earlier about Tooletries, the tool concept, and you said I think it was construction-y type thing. Well, if you look at those stands which we've had bespokely made, they speak to that hardware-y, tooly element, so it gives us a distinct look. And Kate, the customer, so the retailer came in droves for that because they could see it being a benefit to selling to the consumer.
Mm-hmm. And do you find, you mentioned a container store, are they a retail partner of yours that, allows you as a brand to really lean into that merchandising that you think is so powerful?
Not yet.
Not yet, but hope to. Okay, well, hopefully someone...
I say it like this, everything's a working conversation. Mm-hmm. And structurally I get there'll be people listening, certain national chains, they've got, and that have standards and operations. Absolutely get it. Rome wasn't built in a day. As I said, I think the revolution's going to take about 5 years. But it's also just about consistently asking your partners questions politely, being informative, using case studies. So again, being a semi-global brand, I want to say semi-global because we operate Australia, New Zealand, US, UK and Canada. We get the opportunity to then use case studies from the multiple countries that we're in to then benefit us. So we've got, as I said, a national partner in Australia that we absolutely love and are doing extremely well with, and we get to then work with them, but we can also then learn from that, and then it's not always the one size fits, so I want to put that across, but we get to take those learnings and then go, okay, well, what out of that can we transfer over here? But I always suggest to people, entrepreneurs, salespeople, always ask the questions. Look for that next way that you can improve your sales. And I think a lot of it will come down to merchandising standards.
Out of curiosity, have you found that the consumer behavior of your Australian-based customer is similar to that of your US-based customer?
Yeah. So that's really advantageous for us. There's a huge amount of similarities. So that's why we're so confident in this growth and sustainable growth in the US.
Mm-hmm. Makes complete sense. Okay, transitioning into our lightning round. What is your favorite omni-channel brand?
I'm a big fan of Yeti. I don't know. Yeah, huge fan.
Yeah, huge fan as well. Thing that you wish you could change about our industry?
Merchandising.
Favorite podcast?
Bill Simmons. I'm a sports nut.
Favorite newsletter?
I don't have one. If you can suggest one, I'll gladly jump into it.
Yeah, I have a couple that I could suggest. I'll send them over. Favorite social media channel?
Favorite social media channel? It would have to be, I should have been better prepared. It'd probably be one of the men's brand. Just off the top of my head, I don't, they make these, they make awesome wallets like this. So
Ridge?
Yes, there you go. Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you. I should know better, but I'm absolutely fascinated by some of the stuff that are coming through that the techie stuff that, because I wasn't a fan of the old big wallet. So
Makes complete sense. Favorite book?
It's by Craig Groeschel. He's actually a US pastor, and it's Winning the War in Your Mind. Right. Yeah, it shows just a little bit about my faith background. But I came across that on my last visit at a New York, I guess you'd call that, bookstore/drink store, and something told me to pick that up.
Cool. I'll have to check that one out. And favorite event you're planning on attending this year?
This year, it's actually probably, if I can say, next year, because I've got obviously a whole range of trade shows coming up. But I would say next year, I have to talk to them, but I'm looking forward to the Inspired Home Show in Chicago. So I've been given approval to move ahead with that. So I think that'll be a huge opportunity for Tooletries, and I'm actually looking forward to that. Outside of that, I'm looking forward to the June, July trade show season that will be I guess you call that summer. Yes. You call that summer, which was just of the winter that we'd just been through those in the winter. So if anyone's listening that knows of me about coming out, I'm definitely looking forward to that. But from a new perspective, a new point of view, Chicago 2024, hope to see you there.
Cool. I was just there. So I was just there at the past one. So it's a great show. And Dale, where could people connect with you? Yeah,
LinkedIn's a great spot. Obviously, it won't be too hard to miss me. I think I'm the only bald Dale Mason on LinkedIn. You can find me at dale@tooletries.com, even if you've got some questions. I think people helping people, I'm sure Saul and Josh won't mind it too much as long as I'm completing all the things necessary for them. But LinkedIn's a great way. But I'm a big believer in people helping people, because as I come from it, I've come in and I've seen two successful entrepreneurs in Saul and Josh, but two gentlemen that have worn many hats. It's also difficult for that entrepreneur to take off those many hats because it's your baby, and you want to. But what I want to do is encourage people and you speaking to me from a different lens, is where can you start to look at implementing other pieces of the puzzle to help you, so you can take off a hat, so you're not, CEO, salesperson, head creative, finance, all of those sort of things. I could keep rattling things off. You need to start, if you want to be serious in this day and age, to start to look at how you can grow, sustainably grow. Really proud of what we do out of a team of 12, so 2 based in the US, as we went through before, 10 team back in Australia. The US is growing, so we will look to add to the team sustainably over time, short-term, mid-term, long-term. As I've said to you before, we expect a huge amount of growth here in the US, so our team will grow. So you can see that Tooletries is investing in employment and in specialist people in specialised roles.
Makes complete sense. Well, Dale, thank you so much. I enjoyed the conversation.
No, I appreciate you having me, Kate, and if we get a chance to connect again, I'd love to.
Awesome. Thank you. If you liked this podcast, follow me and the Bridge page on LinkedIn and Twitter for hot takes and tactical advice. If you really loved today's episode, we'd love a review on the podcasting platform of your choice. Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Thanks for listening.